Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Yubel Yugioh deck profile for post-Legacy of Destruction. This is something I haven't really seen happen too often with Yu-Gi-Oh support, where we get support for an old school deck 2 sets in a row. Normally we get like one wave of support, and especially when it came to decks like Dark Magician and Blue Eyes even, back in Battle of Chaos, and they really didn't have any support, consecutively with other booster sets, but that's not the case with Yubel because we got new support in Legacy of Destruction for this deck as well, including a new main deck monster and even an incredibly broken field spell for the deck also, giving you much more of the setup needed for the deck. Sticking to as pure of a version as I could with this one again. I definitely find it to be the more fun version for Yubel. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For our Yubel monsters, I'm running one copy of each of the original Yubels. So one Yubel, one Terror Incarnate, and one Ultimate Nightmare. These cards are just your go-to special summon resources off of the many different other Yubel cards that we run in the deck. Yubel being able to then summon out Terror Incarnate, and then Terror Incarnate being able to summon the Ultimate Nightmare. You have the burn damage power with Ultimate Nightmare, the destruction power with Terror Incarnate, and then just the overall attack declaration and protection power with Yubel as well, with your opponent taking a good amount of battle damage they would have from attacks involving these cards, and then just the relative ease you can set them up now with all the new support, including the new Nightmare Throne field spell that we have in the deck also. For some of the newer Yubel support, we're still running the 3 copies of Spirit of Yubel. It cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. If it's destroyed, you can special summon one of your Yubel that is banished in your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use each of the following effects of Yubel once per turn. And when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if it's special summoned, you can add to your hand or set one spell or trap from your deck that mentions Yubel. So being able to set up cards like Nightmare Pain or even our go-to trap, Eternal Favorite, we have all of these different resources, including the setup for our new Nightmare Throne spell, as well using the Spirit of Yubel as just more of a hand trap-like card, making it so your opponent tries to attack, and then you immediately spring this card on them, and then being able to grab any of the one-ofs from our hand, field, or deck or graveyard as well for a special summon makes it all the better as well. We're also running 3 copies of Samsara D. Lotus. With this one, you can tribute this card to special summon one Yubel monster from your deck during your opponent's turn. When a monster effect is activated while you control a Yubel monster, quick effect, you contribute this card. The activated effect becomes destroy one Yubel card on the field, and during your end phase, if you control Yubel and this card's in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand or special summoning, giving you the resource back onto the field to then use Samsara D. Lotus to destroy your Yubel card, to then in turn give you a special summon of a much more important Yubel card on the field, also thanks to what was meant to be Yubel's original setup card on the field from the anime also. For the new monster, we are running 2 copies of Gruesome Grave Swarmer. If you control a Fiend monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then you can destroy one Yubel or one monster that mentions it in your monster zone. You can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon one Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your hand or graveyard, except for a Gruesome Grave Swarmer. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn. So this is just resource after resource, being a quick play special summon to then destroy. It means if your opponent's trying to destroy or avoid destroying your own Yubel cards, you can use Gruesome Grave Swarmer to then just act as more of a search and setup. And it can be searched out with other cards as well, like the new Nightmare Throne, which just searches out a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense and adds to your hand or destroys it. And then for more of the search and setup for cards on the field, 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. I still do like this card in the deck, and technically Yubel did run this card, so it is a card that Yubel used. When this card is normal, well, maybe not this one specifically, but the Sacred Beast cards were used by Yubel. When it's normal summon, you can add one Uriah, Haman, or Rabiel, or Phasms, or one specifically card that lists those cards in the text from your deck to your hand, except for Dark Beckoning Beast. And then with this card, you can only use this effect once per turn. During your main phase, you can normal summon one Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense in addition to your normal summoner set. This is where the main play comes in with this card, the additional normal summon, and then being able to search this card off of our spell, like opening of the Spirit Gates. And then for the rest of the main deck monsters, 3 copies of Ash Blossom and 3 copies of Nibiru, just for my preferred hand trap lineup, especially for the fact if your opponent's trying to avoid monster monster summoning and a way to attack into your Yubel cards, you can use Nibiru to set up a bigger token on their field, depending on how you want it set up as well. And then that could be the potential card that you swing into for game against your opponent, and then using the Ash Blossom, just like the Infinite Impermanence in the deck, as just the additional hand traps. For the spells, we'll start off with our newest one. Sadly, only had the one copy, but I do have Metaverses in here as placeholders for Nightmare Throne. If you only have the one, as soon as you get more, you can replace either this or Terraforming. You can have one Terraforming and one Metaverse as placeholders for this very important field spell with your Metaverse replacement. But the card Nightmare Throne field spell, when it's activated, you can take one Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your deck and either add it to your hand or destroy it. Once per turn, if a face-up Yubel monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, you can add to your hand one Yubel monster from your deck or graveyard or banishment, whose original level is one higher or one lower than one of those monsters. Then you can special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can activate one Nightmare Throne per turn, but you have more of the needed setup for your other Yubel cards, depending on the one you want to summon out, with the higher and lower levels being in, current lineup with all of the Yubel monsters we run. But the big play with Nightmare Throne just comes down to the search power that you can do, and then having that initial destruction as well, either adding it to your hand or destroying it to then activated the on destruction effect of Yubel. I also run 3 copies of Nightmare Pain, being able to be set up with Spirit of Yubel. This card is just really, really good as well. During your main phase, you can destroy one dark monster in your hand or face them on the field to add one Yubel or one card that mentions it from your deck to your hand, except for Nightmare Pain. You can only use this effect once per turn, and while you control Yubel monster, your opponent's monster that attack and can attack must attack Yubel monsters. This is where the Nibiru token comes into play as well. So unless they can get rid of that token or, just stuck with that resource, it can then swing into your Yubel monsters for some pretty big damage, and your opponent would have taken any of the battle damage you have taken from battles involving Yubel monsters. So a definite 3 of it can be searched and set up with your Spirit of Yubel as well, but you just need that guarantee that you can have this card ready to go on the field to use also. We're also running 3 copies of Super Polymerization, just another great resource card, because with our Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever, you need one Yubel monster and then one or more effect monsters on the field, so being able just to use all of your opponent's monsters and not being able to have them respond in any way to Super Polymerization is just a big setup, taking away all the monsters they work to summon and then using it for your bigger fusion monster. We're also running 2 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gate, just being the search card for our Dark Beckoning Beast to then add to our hand and have an additional normal summon as well. And also for the one-ofs, we run 1 copy of Mature Chronicle. Each time a monster is special summoned as a Yubel monster, you place 1 Chronicle counter on this card, and you can remove 1 Chronicle counter to activate one of these effects, or Chronicle counters in number. If it's 1, you special summon 1 Yubel from your graveyard. 2, add 1 of your banished cards to your hand. 3, banish 1 card from your deck. 4, destroy 1 card on the field. Or 5, which I would say is definitely one of the better ones, add 1 Super Polymerization from your deck to your hand. Just being able to add the needed spell for Yubel is a big plus with this card. And then also the 1 for 1, just to grab the many level 1 monsters, including the new Grave Squirmer, all the easier. And then setting up some other Yubel cards in our graveyard, which we can then just add back. And then also the 1 copy of Call by the Grave and the 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. Just if your opponent tries to stop any of these special summons, the draw 2 off of the Triple Tactics Talent. And you also have the Call by the Grave as just a way to stop the hand traps in general by banishing it. For our traps, running the 1 copy of Eternal Favorite. Once per turn, you can activate one of these effects, but you can only use each effect of Eternal Favorite once per turn. And this card can once again just be set up with Spirit of Yubel. That's why we're only running the 1 of copy. Special summon 1 of your Yubel monsters that is banished in your graveyard. Neither player can activate card or effects when that monster is summoned. And if you control Yubel, discard 1 card to send this face-up card to the graveyard. A fusion, summon 1 fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from either field as material, including Yubel monsters. This is sort of a makeshift trap Super Polymerization to use in the deck as well. One that can be set on the field with Spirit of Yubel, then just to activate the following turn. And also the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, along with the Ash Blossom and the Nibiru's, just additional hand traps to make use of in the deck when stopping your opponent's plays if you happen to go second against them. And now moving on to the extra deck, I run 2 copies of Yubel, the Loving Defender Forever, needing the 1 Yubel monster and 1 or more effect monsters on the field. If it's fusion summon, you can inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each material used, so that can be big damage there alone. And also, with this card, once per turn, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also, you can take no battle damage from battles involving this card. At the end of damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that opponent's monster's attack. If you do, banish that monster. So swinging into the Nibiru token that you set up before, is what I meant. You'll hit big damage for the 500 burn off of every monster used for it, and then if the token is big enough and it has to swing into your Yubel, thanks to cards like your Nightmare Paint on the field, that could be enough for a game right then and there. And also additional fusions that we can go into being the 1 Mud Dragon, the 1 Garura, and the 1 Starving Venom, all just different targets for super polymerization, with our Link monsters being the 1 Almirage, the 1 Anima, the 1 IP Masquerena, the 1 SP Little Knight, and the 1 Nightmare Cerberus, with our Link 3 being the 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn, with our Xyz monsters, well, not gone into as often, 1 Gustav, 1 number 81, the 1 Typhon, and the 1 Zeus. I would say a little more easier to go into, especially the Typhon, but still added backup options with the level 10 monsters we run. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, this is a very control-based deck where you want to set up and make use of the different Yubels. So whether you're special summoning out a Spirit of Yubel, it's all playing off of how your opponent sets up in their field, because a big play along with the deck is super polymerization, being able to summon out a Yubel monster, which the easiest one I would say would be Spirit of Yubel, but having our new go-to Nightmare Throne as well when activated, taking that Fiend monster and then destroying it, having the special summon option. So you can even just add and destroy Spirit of Yubel, and then being able to special summon one of your Yubel that is banished or in your hand. So that would be an additional one from your hand, but also just being able to take the original Yubel off of this card means we can destroy it, and then when it's destroyed, being able to have the special summon of Terror Incarnate on the field, having a monster set up that can then just destroy other additional ones. And then also, if a face-up Yubel monster leaves the field by a card effect, so that would be your Yubel monster, you can add to your hand one Yubel monster that is in your deck or graveyard whose original level is 1 higher or 1 lower. So then with it being Terror Incarnate, you can go 1 lower, adding back the Spirit of Yubel that you may have used or having one to search out as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Once again, just happy to be able to update since we got some new, better support to add to the pure power of the Yubel deck. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.